even in high school, when young girls would come up to me and ask for my autograph, it was a no brainer. Because for the first time, they're looking at me as a role model. So I took that to heart.
You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, or on our YouTube channel, all over social media, or our morning newsletter, KCSN Daily, dedicated to your Kansas City Chiefs. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Okay, welcome into another episode of Our Stories, the Kansas City Sports Network podcast on women's sports in Kansas City. This is presented by Holiday Distillery, our friends over there. And really cool guest today. When I was a kid, I wanted to be Tamecka Dixon when I grew up. I'm 26 now. Nothing has changed. I still want to be Tamecka Dixon when I grow up. Tamekka's jersey is hanging in the rafters at Allen Fieldhouse. She's a 3-time WNBA All-Star, 2-time WNBA champion. Tamekka, thank you for joining us. This is so cool.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be back. Good to be back virtually in Kansas.
Sure. Yeah, it's been a while since we last caught up. So tell me where you're at, what you've been up to lately.
Well, I'm a Jersey girl, so I currently reside in Jersey. I came back home after my playing days were over. So still here in Jersey, living and loving life.
And you got for our YouTube friends and watching this, you got the Kansas jersey behind you, which I love.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk about, I love that you were one of the faces of women's basketball and one of the most influential times in the sports history, in the late 90s into the early 2000s. So we'll get there in a second. But first, I just kind of want to start about what got you into the game. And I know your father was a big part of that. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
He was the guy that got me in. He was my idol. And he was a pretty darn good basketball player in his own right. And when I was younger, when I was growing up, my parents had me young. They had me at the age of 17. So I got a chance to kind of witness my father's collegiate playing years. And he had a very good collegiate playing career. His senior year in college, he was the all-time leading scorer at American University, and he was a projected lottery pick. So he was supposed to be picked pretty high in the NBA draft that year. And 10 games into his senior season, he tore his ACL. So it kind of diverted his NBA plans. But he still, he climbed back and was able to make an NBA roster. He played for the Cavaliers for 2 years and had a pretty good overseas career, but he was definitely the guy that got me started in basketball and got me excited about playing the game.
Yeah. So obviously you were extremely talented when you were growing up, but there was no WNBA to look up to. There was no goal of playing in the WNBA because that league didn't exist, right?
Right. Absolutely. But my dad, that was another, thing that he used to tell me. He would come back from his playing days playing overseas, and he would let me know that there were professional leagues that women were currently flourishing in over there. So I knew young that there was an opportunity for me if I wanted to continue playing. I just didn't know where, whether it would, be overseas or, whether someday it would be an opportunity to have a place here in the United States to continue playing. But my dream growing up was to be the first girl to play in the NBA. So that was my dream.
I love that. Yeah, that is just so cool. So what brought you you said you're a Jersey girl. What brought you over to Lawrence, Kansas?
Marion, Washington.
Yep. Yeah. Say no more. Yeah. That's it.
I think the coaching staff in general at that time, played a huge part in getting me to Kansas. I can remember just when I first had an opportunity to meet Renee Brown, who was instrumental. She was an assistant coach under Marion, and she was instrumental in recruiting me. But I remember them coming out and doing a home visit here, and it was like a home visit at a family reunion. I had like 30 family members here, and they fit right in to the family. So, they were here eating dinner, washing dishes, whatever it took. And
Yeah.
we just
Washing
built,
dishes.
yeah, everything, cleaning the house.
Yeah.
They fit right in the family. So from that moment on, I think my family chose them first.
Sure.
Um, and then obviously the selling point was when I went, and got on the campus in Lawrence, and I fell in love, and then a team and I just felt so at home. So I knew that was where I needed to be.
Yeah, gosh, talk about an intimidating recruiting situation going
Yeah,
into a top prospect's house and no pressure.
absolutely,
Usually you have to deal with the parents, but do you
absolutely.
remember so walking into Allen Fieldhouse years later, your jersey, as we said, would be in the rafters. Do you remember walking in your first time, kind of what your goal was? Obviously that facility is, pretty special.
Yeah, I didn't imagine that. I just, I wanted to, when I came in as a freshman, we were the four of us that came in, Angie Hallblock, Jennifer Trapp, Shelly Canada, and myself, we were a top ranked recruiting class. So, immediately there was a little bit of pressure on our shoulders to kind of take the reins and roll with it. But I felt like Kansas was right there on the cusp of being one of the programs that, when you speak about women's basketball, you would have to speak about us. And we wanted to take the reins and move the needle forward, move the conversation forward. And I think in the 4 years that we were there and that we played there, we did that. We've we tried to do our best in keeping the program at that elite level.
Yeah, and your class had quite a bit of success
Yes.
those couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you think of a highlight, your favorite, memory or favorite win when you were there?
Well, there was some really key games. They used to have an initiative called Field the Field House.
Hmm.
And it was always against a top ranked team. And back then, you had some pretty good programs in our conference, Colorado being one of them, and they were always ranked in the top 10. So when they would come in, they would kind of build that initiative around like a Colorado or some high level team. And I just remember us, having an opportunity to play in front of a field house in that moment, against a top 10 team like a Colorado. Those were some really, really key moments. I thought those were some really huge games for us. Um, we had I think the Connecticut games,
Yeah, that
um,
was at Kemper, right? One of
at
them.
Kemper. Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the uh, the boys played the Connecticut boys, and we played the Connecticut women.
Yeah.
That was those were great games. And then obviously when we got into the NCAA tournament and being able to advance to the Sweet 16, being the furthest we've ever been to that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some really good games.
Yeah. Yeah. And all this time, the Olympic team in '96 obviously was a springboard for women's basketball, and you're kind of getting the inklings at this time that the WNBA is on the rise, and someone on
Right.
your coaching staff was a pretty big part of that. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
and that was kind of how I kind of I had the cheat code into what was what was coming next. Renee
Yeah.
Brown, who was an assistant coach, and as I mentioned earlier, she was instrumental in getting me to Kansas. She had taken, I think it was my junior year, she had taken the director of player personnel position at the WNBA. So I knew the WNBA was coming. And then obviously you have the follow up with the '96 Olympic team, and Coach Washington was an assistant under Tara Vanderveer. So it was a lot of things happening um, in the scope of women's basketball, and as well as in Lawrence with us, because it was a lot of moving parts that like directly correlated with our program. So it was a cool era to be a part of.
Yeah, and I want to jump to your next chapter, which is the WNBA draft after that. But I wanted to touch a little bit more on playing for Coach Washington. I mentioned
Sure.
you mentioned in '96, she was actually the first Black woman to be an assistant coach on the Olympic women's basketball staff.
Yeah.
obviously just an absolute trailblazer. What were those 4 years like playing under her?
Man, it's hard to put it into words. I think I grew the most that I could ever grow under her tutelage. I owe a tremendous amount of who I am as a person and a player to her. She's been instrumental in everything that I've done, and you know, and I think I could speak for all of her players, who've been fortunate to be able to play under her. She was a mother figure, but she was a powerful figure for me as a Black woman to be able to see someone and play under someone of her stature, and see how much respect she commanded around the sport. I owe a tremendous debt to her. And every day that I speak about basketball and speak about who I am, it's a direct reflection of her.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you finished playing at KU. The WNBA is coming. When did you get word, hey, this thing's actually happening, and you decided you wanted to be part of it?
Yeah. So a lot of the caveat in that was at that it was a really unique time in women's basketball because we had an opportunity. I did as a senior to pick what professional league I wanted to play in, and a lot of people don't know about the ABL, which was the American Basketball League, which was another professional women's league that was in existence and had been in existence 2 years prior. So as a senior, I had an opportunity to choose which league I wanted to play in, which for me was exciting because, coming into, my freshman year in Kansas, there were no opportunities. So now as a senior, there are two opportunities, and the ABL was paying more out the gate.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an intriguing situation to look at. But yeah. I really thought that the NBA, David Stern was really adamant about supporting the WNBA and helping it to succeed. And I thought having the backing of the NBA and having the backing of him, who thought so much of women's basketball and what it could be, saw what it could be, and was committed to it. I thought that was even if I wasn't going to get paid as much out the gate, I thought that I would have an opportunity to thrive in that situation. So I did choose the WNBA. Obviously, Renee Brown was there, and some other things. But I really thought it was built on the right foundation, and it was a league that, with the right backing, which I thought we had, it could survive and it could last. And here we are 27 years later.
You're
talking
right.
about. So I guess I made the right decision.
Yeah, right. Yeah, easier hindsight's 2020, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, looking back now, obviously that is just an incredible time in women's basketball history. And you played in a really cool time where these opportunities were just developing. Did you know at the time that, hey, I'm part of something pretty special, or were you just kind of looking at your next move?
I thought I was part of something really special, but I didn't know how special. It was like, this is kind of like the next step, But I think what made it unique and what made it special is the women that were a part of it really, really took the responsibility to heart, that we were going to show, the world that we deserved a platform. And we deserve to be here. And I think every woman that put on a WNBA jersey kind of felt that early on. And it was a cool experience to be a part of. The women coming in now have no idea what that felt like, because when they grew, when they were growing up in the times that they, were looking up at women's basketball, they saw it on TV, but we were, we didn't see that. So to have an opportunity to really create that foundation was special.
Yeah, you became that role model, that image that you didn't have, in terms of women playing at that level.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how special was that to you? Because I know you mentioned before you took time to sign every autograph, take every picture with fans and stuff. How much did you embrace that, off the court importance of what you guys were doing?
Oh, I embraced it wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And it started for me at Kansas, even before, even in high school, when young girls would come up to me and ask for my autograph, it was a no-brainer. Because for the first time, they're looking at me as a role model. So I took that to heart, and even more so in the WNBA. And you heard early on a lot, the young girls felt like, and even the parents that brought their kids to the game would be like, there's so much access to you guys that, we can't get close to an NBA player, but with us, we made that, evident and made that known that we wanted to kind of feel the people.
Yeah.
And I think that was what made our league special.
Yeah, I'm sure that helped get the league off the ground,
Hmm.
just getting fan support and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Let's hop back a step to the WNBA draft, because you were part of the first ever WNBA
Yeah.
draft, and it was in your home state, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Gosh, how cool is that?
It was cool.
Yeah.
It was cool and then stressful because
Sure.
it was cool to have it in my home state, and all my family and friends were able to be a part, but it was also stressful because I only had a certain amount of people that I can get into that venue. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
so
Yeah. It's a
picking and
good problem to
choosing,
have.
yeah, picking and choosing who can come in and who had to sit on the sidelines was tough.
Sure.
But it was great to have it here. It was in Secaucus at NBA Studios, and my family and friends got a chance to be a part and witness it. And it was special, definitely special.
Yeah. Do you
And
remember?
also to get that invite, because it
Yeah.
was only a select few that were invited to the actual draft, and I was one, so it was special for sure.
So you got to walk up on the stage and do the whole. What was it like hearing your name called? Do you remember? I'm sure you remember.
Yeah, that
If
it
you
was
didn't
a
black out because of how exciting that was.
yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
To be, because you don't know,
Yeah.
you don't know when your number's going to be called, and I was just sitting in there, and I was like, hopefully, I'm not the last person in this green room,
You're just hanging out.
right? Just hanging out, and your number never gets called, but that wasn't
Yeah.
the case. And it happened pretty quickly, and so yeah, it was cool. It was definitely cool to be a part of.
Yeah. So was it 14th overall, right?
It was 14th overall. And the one unique thing about our draft, the first ever draft, was it wasn't a draft filled with just college seniors. It was people who had played overseas, that were coming back and wanted to be a part of the league. So it was veterans who had been playing for years mixed in with college seniors who had an opportunity to be a part of the draft. So I was 14th overall, but I was the third overall college player picked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh. And to the Sparks. I don't know if we said that. To the LA
Yes.
Sparks. Yep. And so you end up being a 3-time WNBA All-Star, 2-time WNBA champion. This all happens from 2001, 2003. I
Yeah.
mean, 01 and 02 is when you won the titles.
Right.
And you're in Los Angeles. What
Crazy.
are those years? Yeah.
So it was a roller coaster of a ride in LA.
Sure.
My first 5 years in the league, we went through 5 coaches, a lot of different moving parts, and a lot of changes in the front office, and just kind of getting our footing
Yeah.
in the league. Houston came out the gate and won the first four. And so we were a franchise just kind of trying to figure it out the first couple of years. And then I think year 5 is when we finally got some stability. Michael Cooper came in. He was an assistant coach in year 4. But in year 5, he took over. We had him for a full training camp. We knew what it was going to be, and we knew what the team was going to be, and we were able to focus on that. And that was kind of our turning point. So from that stability of having him as a head coach, implementing his game plan and his, the way he does things, and that was the turning point for us. So once we got that in place, we won the next 2. We should have won the next 3, but it was up. It was up and away from there, and we had some really really good years in LA.
Yeah. What were the pieces on that roster in the first year that came together?
Lisa Leslie,
Yep.
myself, Delisha Milton Jones, now Jones. She was Delisha Milton back then. Uh, for the first championship, you had Yukari Figs out of Purdue, Mawadi Mabika, um, Latasha Byers. We had some heavy hitters. Like in each of our championship years, we had at least three All Stars in each All Star game, 3 to 4 All Stars. So we had some heavy hitters. Second year, we brought in Nikki Teasley. She won the second championship with us. So we had some really really good players and just solid, just
Yeah.
hoopers.
Yeah. Yeah. What was buy-in like for the program in terms of fan support and I imagine that was a pretty fun era to be a part of.
It really was because
Yeah.
if you think back to that era, that was the era that the Lakers were winning their championships as well. So
Yeah.
those two championships were the same years that the Lakers won theirs back to back. So the city was on fire.
Yeah.
Um, it was phenomenal. We had the support of the Lakers. They come to the games. Kobe, Shaq, the guys that come to the games, they supported us. We supported them, and we partied together. That whole, so it
Are
was.
there any stories you can share on the podcast? We'll keep the other ones for afterward then.
I don't know if I can share those stories on the
That's
podcast,
awesome.
but it was some epic moments. I could say that.
Sure, sure. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So how long were you with LA?
9 years. I was with
9 years.
LA 9 years, and then I became a free agent and decided to test the free agent market.
Mhm.
So I signed with Houston
Yeah.
Comets, who was our rival. Signed with
Oh,
them for
great.
3 years,
Yeah.
and then my last year I spent in Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah. And
hmm
did you stay pretty healthy over the course of your career?
Thank God. I had towards
Yeah.
the end I had some nagging injuries, some knee soreness.
Who doesn't?
You
Yeah.
know, as you get older, things just start happening.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but for the most part, no major injuries, which was definitely a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah. In the, jumping back to the early 2000s, you guys are like this figurehead, this cool, like everyone wants to be the Sparks in the early 2000s. Did you guys,
Yeah,
feel that?
we did.
Yeah.
We did.
I love that.
Yeah, we definitely did. The target was on our back. You know,
Yeah.
I felt like everybody wanted to play in LA. Who doesn't want to play in LA and be in
Yeah.
LA in the summer?
Yeah.
Just amazing, amazing opportunities. So yeah, I think we were the team that everybody kind of wanted to be. Just the way we kind of the way we played, the style of play that we had, and then the fact that we were in LA. We had an opportunity. You know, every game that you go to, you're gonna bump into somebody, some star.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had a ton of stars come out and watch our, on the floor and watching our games, and I think a lot of teams envied that,
Mhm.
and a lot of players wanted to be a part of that. So yeah, we were definitely that team in the early
Yeah.
2000s.
Yeah, it just made it cool. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And your style of play, I've watched some highlights, and it seems like you guys just had this cool swagger. Like you knew you were the team.
Yeah, we developed that,
Yeah.
definitely in practice. We beat each other up, and we really really competed to the highest level in practice. So when
Mhm.
we got to the games were easy. The games were, we were just playing, not stressing about anything, just playing, because we done all the hard work in practice, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the way that Coop developed it for us. So it was exciting. It was fun to play, fun to be a part of.
Yeah. So 2010, you announced your retirement.
Yeah,
What came into that decision? Just kind of the right time.
yeah. You know. For me, it was when it became hard for me to prepare,
Hmm.
to get up and work out, and to get up and prepare to be a better player. That's when I knew it was time for me to, like, to give it up.
Yeah.
So when it became a job, to prepare. So yeah, 2010, I kind of started feeling that. It was kind of like a drag on drain. To get up
Yeah.
and train, and don't want to go overseas and don't want to do anything, and just
Yeah.
started thinking about like life after basketball. When those thoughts started creeping in, I'm like, okay,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Just
time.
knowing when it's time to close that chapter.
Yeah, yeah.
Want to
And
touch on oh, sorry, go
I
ahead.
didn't, I didn't want to be that athlete that hung on too long. That
Sure.
player that doesn't know when it's time to end. Or,
We can think
when
of some of those people. We'll say the
absolutely,
names, but yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So you mentioned overseas. So were you doing the thing that a lot of players do where you play overseas in the WNBA
Yeah,
offseason and then you come back?
yeah. For me, yeah. So for me. It was easier to maintain a high level of play
Yeah.
playing in some of the higher level leagues overseas. So I did. I spent 6 years in Italy in between WNBA seasons. I spent a year in Russia. Actually, the team that Brittany Griner played
Oh,
on,
wow.
we were the
Yeah.
first American group to go over there actually
Mm.
and start that with Yekaterinburg, which was the team she played for.
Yeah.
And then I played my first year out. I played a year in Turkey.
Okay.
So yeah, played 8 years over there.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that
Mhm.
experience like?
Which one? Just
Let's go.
overseas in
Let's start
general?
with Italy. Yeah. Yeah.
Italy was beautiful, which is why I went over there 6 different times.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. The other ones I noticed were only 1 year.
Yeah,
Did your teammates speak your language and stuff, or was it a lot of WNBA players?
there was a lot of WNBA players on other teams.
Sure.
The way it usually works out is each team, if you can afford it, each team has two Americans.
Okay.
So most of the teams had two Americans, and most of the teams were kind of close by, so it was an opportunity for a lot of the Americans to get together, maybe on the weekends and things like that when we're not playing.
Hmm.
Um, so that's generally the way it goes. But as far as the girls speaking English, you usually have a few teammates
Yeah.
that does speak English, and kind of could help navigate everything else. But I played in Italy long enough where I can understand the language, and
Oh, okay.
I spoke enough to get by, you
Yeah.
know. But in
Can you still
hindsight,
speak Italian?
a little bit. In
Okay.
hindsight, I wish that I had taken it seriously,
Sure.
because the teams that I played on, they offered lessons and things like that, and
Mm.
I was like, the girls could speak it. I don't need,
Nothing's yeah.
But in hindsight, I just wish I would have taken it more seriously and really, really learned the language.
Sure. Yeah. I'm curious because I had a teammate, one of my college teammates playing the Czech Republic, and she
Oh
was the
yeah,
only English speaker, including her coaching staff. So
wow,
she said you just looked at the whiteboard, and if
yeah,
you couldn't figure it out, too bad.
a, a,
Um,
a true love and basketball moment,
yeah.
huh?
Yeah. Just solely relying on like what the X's and O's are saying. I cannot imagine.
Right.
And getting yelled at and being like, I don't know what you're trying to tell me.
Yeah,
So Russia
it's
and Turkey?
it's
Oh, sorry.
interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting because most, if you don't have any English speaking teammates, or the coaches don't speak English, most of the teams would like provide a translator for you.
Sure.
Depending on the level.
That's got to
Um,
be the hardest job in the world to look at a screaming coach and then like
yeah,
deliver it that message.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We had a Chinese player. We had Haishaw Zhang, my rookie
oh, okay.
year in LA. She was like China's best basketball player ever. Her and Yao Ming are considered the two best.
Yeah.
And 6'11", big Chinese girl.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Yeah.
but she had a translator when she came over, and
Uh-huh.
it's funny, coaches be all animated in the huddle, and
Yeah.
then she'd be looking at her translator like, "What did he say?"
I
And
don't,
he
yeah.
he delivered the message so calm. I'm like, he didn't say
That's not, nope.
that.
Yeah. You're skipping over a few parts.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
Italy was your first 6 years overseas, and then you did Turkey and Russia?
So I did Turkey first.
Turkey
Then I
first.
did
Okay.
three years in the northern part of Italy.
Okay.
Then I did Russia.
Yeah.
Then I did 3 years in the southern part of Italy.
Okay. Very cool.
So yeah.
Yeah. What an experience for basketball to take you, I mean, all over the world.
Oh, man, I tell kids all the time, I'm like, I I took bouncing the ball seriously, like, and the game has been so good to me. It's taken me places I never thought I'd ever be able to go, and it's crazy when you think about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, going from that young girl that wants to be the first NBA player because there is no WNBA
Right.
to what you were able to accomplish in the league. Yeah,
Absolutely.
you mentioned taking the game seriously. I'm sure the young girls watching this, listening to this, still want to be Tamecka Dixon like me. What's your goal if they want to follow your footsteps?
I would say just put your head down and work.
Yeah,
That is people, when I talk to kids, they always ask me what it takes. And I tell them, there's really no cheat code to it. You got to put the time, you got to put the time in, you got to put the work in. But it's so many distractions for young girls coming up now, social media and all of those things. And I just say, don't focus on any of that. If you really, really have a passion to do what you want to do, if the game of basketball is what you want to do, put your head down and just go to work. Like put the time in, put the work in, and you never know where the game is going to take you.
yeah. Wanted to touch on the WNBA a little bit too, because obviously the league's been in the headlines a lot lately. It's cool to celebrate how far we've come, but also still a long way to go. Where would you like to see
Sure.
progress made, in the women's game?
I think it's going in the right direction.
Yeah,
When you look at it, when you think about the NBA year 25, you're still flying commercial year 25 in the NBA. Still you may have one or two players at that $1 million, but not a lot of players at that $1 million mark year 25. So you look in, when you look at it parallel, I think we're in a good position. I think, the progress that women have made overall in sports has definitely helped move the needle a little bit. But I think we're at a time now where we can kind of push the needle a little more. I think women's sports, I think people now see that women's sports can command and demand so much more, and can generate dollars,
yeah,
if you put the right tools and incentives behind them. So I think we're at a good place. I think you really have ownership now in the WNBA that sees the value in the product. They're talking about expansion, so
hmm
I think it's really in a good place, and it's really going in the right direction.
yeah,
So I'd like to I, I'd definitely like to have this conversation 10 years from now, and
yeah.
see how far the WNBA has come in 10 years, but I think it's definitely going in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah. And how satisfying is it for you to watch, knowing your core group got this thing off the ground and push the needle, and then you're able to hand the baton to this next group and seeing what they've done with it so far.
Yeah, I'm just thankful that I was a part, a small
Yeah,
part in that journey. And like you said, it has a long way to go, but I definitely think I like where it's going. Um, and I like the young group of girls that are in there now, and hopefully they can take that baton and move the needle a little further.
yeah. And I guess, what does it mean to you to know there's a young Tamecka Dixon sitting out somewhere that can watch women playing in the WNBA now, knowing you didn't have that, but knowing you were part of what allowed other women, other young girls to have that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. Like you said, I did a lot of research when I was younger,
Mhm.
because there wasn't an opportunity for me to watch a lot of games. So a lot of my role models were men, because that's all I seen, when I turned my TV on. But now, young girls could turn their TV on and catch a WNBA game almost any night of the week. Just amazing. When you're able to look at that, and you can look at yourself, representation of what you would look like on screen, and it just opens up so many more opportunities and so many more dreams and goals for the next group of women or next group of girls that are coming up. And so I'm excited that I was a small part of that journey.
Yeah, I would say a big part. And you mentioned seeing you on the screen. It's like there's such power in seeing someone who looks like you doing what you want to do, and just being able
Right.
to, yeah, just having that path laid out that you can follow and know that if you put in the work like you did, that's a possibility for you.
Yeah. Representation definitely matters. It matters
100%.
definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so the podcast is called Our Stories. So a question I'm asking at the very end is, if the people listening, the people watching could take away one thing away from your story, what do you want that to be?
Oh, good question.
No pressure. Yeah, it's a small question.
Good question. What do I want them to take away? I was just a little girl with a dream that was able to see it live out. And I want young girls that are coming up now to just dream, because you just never know what that little dream, where that dream can take you. And I'm just a living example of that. A little girl that dreamed and it all came true.
Yeah. And I think I've told you this before. I got to watch Tamecka Dixon growing up as a young basketball player in Kansas City. And I mean, what you've done for the women to follow you is just incredible. So thank you for everything you've done. And thanks for taking the time to talk today. You're such a pleasure to talk to.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Anytime. And let me know next time you're in Kansas City. We'll grab coffee or something.
November, I'll be back. They're supposed to be honoring Coach Washington at the University of Kansas. And it's going to be a huge event. So it's going to be a ton of us coming back for that. And that's supposed to be in November, God willing. So I should be back.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Kansas is lucky for it. Tamecka, thank you so much. Sure appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.